I'm a little bit unsure how detailed I should go here, but maybe I should just take a little start. The CEN TC 442 is a quite young committee in CEN. It's had the first meeting in September 2015. But it's quite an active committee, and the activities local in the different members are more or less exploded this year. When we started, the mirror committees in some countries was just 1 or 2 or 3 persons. Now it's up to 50 and more in some countries. We are a little bit lucky in Norway because we are not only the leadership in CEN, but we also have the leadership in the ISO committee supporting BIM. And we have the same secretary in the both committees, so that it means that we can be well organized and coordinated on both CEN and ISO level, and that is quite important in this because CEN and ISO work very close together. I will mainly now report from the last plenary meeting we had last week in Dublin. Just to give you an update where we are today. The first we did is to decide a new structure. So you need to update your slides. What we mainly did is that we took the working group 1, which worked with strategy and planning. We had delivered an update on the business plan, I'll come back to it, into CAG, which is the chairman's advisory group, and we have working group 1 on focus on terminology, because we learned that is quite important in this matter. So we need to focus on terminology. But the other working group is exchange information. That is the group dealing with the real hard technical stuff, how to change information between software. And then you have maybe the most interesting group for you is the working group 3, is the work dealing with the processes. How should we implement BIM in the projects? And then the last one, working group 4, is mainly about products, and now is focusing on standardized product information. So in the future, when you're looking for product, you can just Google it, and you will find information supporting the properties you need in your projects. The chairman's advisory group is the conveners, which try to coordinate the work in the whole TC, and also now will work with strategy and planning in the future. We also will look into was mandated now in Dublin to work with the role as a horizontal group, because what we are doing in CEN also have consequences for all the other TCs in CEN. That means we need to identify how to do this, because when we, for example, this product standard, we will make a product template and a data format to transport this product data from one place to another, one server to another. But the content of that data is from for example, the product TCs. So that means that we need to have the product TCs to put into the standard, the harmonized standards, the use of these same standards. That means in quite a few short time actually, is that when someone is selling a product in Europe, they not only need to provide the information on a PDF as they do today, but also this format, which we are developing in CEN TC 442. We made it machine readable directly from the building information modeling and using the IFC XML standard. Yeah, so this is what we was told to do now, mandated in Dublin. Need to start to build up this framework, and we need to report back in 6 months, so this will happen quite fast. We also updated the business plan. The business plan is free, available on the CEN websites. We made the first business plan in 2014, actually, in a working group preparing the TC. The interesting thing, actually, to go through a business plan written 3 years ago, when you come to BIM, then you learn how much happened just during these 3 years. So that was a quite interesting exercise. The mainly update in this is that we need to involve infrastructure more, so there will be more focus on infrastructure. But the scope, as you see here, is what I told you, horizontal. This is from the last working groups meeting this in September in Budapest. It was, I think, 80. Just a little bit also about the standards we work with. There is 3 pillars. We need to have interoperability between systems, because this is all about sharing data. And we need to have the data model, and that is in the bottom there. It's an ISO standard. It's made by Building Smart International, which have been adopted by the ISO, which we again have now adopted as a CEN standard. We also have adopted the ISO standards on data dictionary to use with BIM. And we also have adopted in CEN now as a European standard how to define the processes or the information needing to support that processes, actually. So this is the standard that is most relevant, and the reason why I said working group 3 is maybe the most important work, because here we need to describe more in detail or more practical usable for mostly people, because the standard describe how you should, what kind of processes you should do to define your exchange requirement. Because there is a one-to-one connection between your processes, the decision you want to do, and the exchange information you need. So you need to define the exchange requirement. That's up to the users in the project to define. If you can do that, the software can pick it up using the so-called model view definitions and take care of the data. This is maybe Lars Jarle mentioned a little bit about the connection. This is starting to be quite complicated, and that's the reason why I said it's good that we see that we have strong connection with the Secretariat on the ISO side, because you have the ISO committees, both GIS. GIS is important, dealing with BIM, because every asset we are building is placed somewhere on Earth. This is all the formalized relationship which is in place at the moment. And up on the top you see also that we will work on, as I told in the business plan, against infrastructure. That is the next step. So there was a meeting yesterday in CEDAR, which is the forum for the European road authorities, which we asked to connect and liaison. I haven't had the feedback for that meeting yet, but I hope it's positive. This one here is important to understand, because this is about the ownership and the relationship. In the core standard, we build everything around on the technical side. It's the IFC standard, which I told you was now an EN standard. But this standard is owned by Building Smart International. So that it means that everything we need to change with that standard, we need to collaborate with Building Smart International. The ownership is by quite special actually, by Building Smart International, and ISO had just the right to publish it. So that means that every change that has to be in, we need to collaborate with Building Smart International. And we struggle with the work to have, because they are running ahead of us, to be, so if you buy some software, for example, mostly they will be according to the Building Smart standard, not the ISO standard, because the ISO standards, and then of course EN standard is a little bit behind. So the most updated standards, and the good thing is that it's free available on the Building Smart technical website. And what I have learned to be in Building Smart Norway is that there's a lot of architects actually who's hacking and do a lot of stuff with the IFC standard. So, and you might also the big guru in this world, Thomas Liebig, actually is an architect. So that's maybe it's easy to why it's easy to understand, because it's a thinking. When you are from the construction sector, it's the thinking behind how the organized and structured the standard is from the construction sector, so you understand it. But that means, for example, when we go to the GIS people, who mainly are ICT people who have structured all the standard, they don't understand anything how we have done it in the construction sector. So this is an interesting maturity map we have adopted into the business plan, developed by the Norwegian hospital building organization, which is quite advanced. And I shouldn't say it, but if you should go up to the hospital in Trondheim in Norway and see how they really do BIM in the whole life cycle, quite advanced. So we want to use this model here as try to measure the maturity, because we are learning that there is not in the real world. It's not like the UK maturity model that you have one border and then everyone is in level 2 and next everyone is level 3. There is even in project, there is companies, actors within the project on every level. And it will be like that for many years. And you need to accept it. But it's a good way to try to understand where you are on this map. But just back to the hospital, they're using everything, connecting, they have an updated live building information model all the time. If they do any changes with the building, product, everything, they update the model, and they have connected to sensors, which is all in the building and to all the equipment, and the organization running the leadership of the hospital is using the model to support them how to organize the work on the hospital. And if you are hospitalized in that hospital, if you have to do, then you will be an IFC object, just so you know it. Just very quickly through the CEN work program, what we're doing. We have, as I have told you, adopted this standard. They are published as European standards. Working Group 2 is working with these standards here. Most interesting maybe at the moment is this LO level of information need, LOD or whatever they call it, standard. We need to find a way to how to deal with different maturity of the model. Working Group 3 have all these process standards, and there will be more, I know. Working Group 4 are working with the product standard. You can see where they are in. There is a lot of work doing, even if there is just a proposed new work item, because if you send the time from when you start activate a new work item to you have to deliver is just 8 months. So that means that they more or less have to be finished before they activate the project. Yeah. here you can see more in detail. I hope you have the presentation where the different projects are in the stages. I will come back to the red one. Because maybe the most important standard, and this is the last I will take, but I hope you can take that back home to the different countries. The ISO 19650 it will be the framework for building information model, information management, dealing with building information modeling. It's based on the 1192 standards from UK, which quite a lot used, I think. But I have a feeling that UK maybe not. It has been really internationalized. So, but what we saw on the vote on the DIS this spring is that Europe voted against Part 2, and we had 1,000 comments, and we decided to take it on another DIS. The problem with this is that we need now to take on a second DIS, and we have used the time we have from ISO. So that means when we launch this for the second DIS in the end of February, it's already sent over from the working group to ISO and CEN administration, just to prepare and translation and all that. It means if you have more technical commits, there will be no standard. And we really need this standard to build up building information modeling in Europe. So please go home to the national standardization body, and please not too much technical commit at this stage. Because we have had, for the 4 years we have been working with the standard, more than 4,000 comments which have been dealt with. And I really doubt there is new comments that has not been discussed and decided on before. So that was a homework for all of you. Go back to your national standardization body and say no more comments. There will be an update, but we need to have the standards out there in market, test it, learn, and then update it from real learning, not more theoretical issues. Okay, thank you.